Welcome to a corner of my house that I really like. These bricks, I painted these bricks. This coat hanger, I hung that. This is my old fence. This is my old fence that I had machined, and then I cut each piece and individually placed it on this wall and did the jigsaw. This guitar, I love this guitar, reminds me of a lot of good things. These walls didn't used to look like this. When I first moved into the house, this was all 80s, that really dark red brick, and glossed as well. And so was this. And it looked very stark and very dark in this room. And so I decided to paint this wall. Little did I know that it would take me days and days, because apparently bricks absorb a lot of paint, incredibly a lot of paint in the mortar there, and getting the brush and just poking it in there over and over and trying to get this to a thing that I actually liked and would bring brightness to the room. These panels here, trying to find, because they weren't uniform. They were not uniform at all, and so I had to make all sorts of angled cuts to try and put them in there. But what I know is that when I look at these, I can see that they're refreshed, but I can also see that they're completely imperfect. These panels have dried out and warped a little over the years. And this paint, I can look at it and I can still see that there's not enough paint between that mortar gap. You might not be able to see it, but I can see it because I did the work on it. So many of us walk with this sense of disappointment of where we're up to. I know I've done a lot of work, but I'm really disappointed with where I'm up to. I feel disconnected. I feel like I don't sense God like I used to. I feel misunderstood, in all honesty. I feel misunderstood, I feel disconnected, and I don't feel like I sense God like I used to. And there's this sense in us that goes, but I've done all of this work. Shouldn't it be better by now? Shouldn't I feel connected? Shouldn't I understand? And these are questions, if you're asking them, or statements that you're making, that if you're making them, that's okay. Every person of faith has asked and made these statements throughout the whole of history. Our Bible heroes did it as well. How long, O Lord, will I wait for you? Psalm 40, the psalmist says, how long will I wait for you? He says, I waited patiently for the Lord. He inclined and heard my cry. All of those statements of feeling disconnected, feeling misunderstood, and feeling like I don't sense God anymore, they're all statements of comparison. Because what you're saying is, there was a season when I sensed God, there was a season when I felt connected, and there was a season where I felt understood. And our temptation is to try to go back to the environments, to try and recreate the ecosystems or the environments that once held that connection for you, held that understanding for you, held that sense of sensing God for you, and gave you that kind of that spiritual expression, that explosive spiritual expression that really gave you life. And yet, history just keeps moving forward. You don't get to go back. So can I encourage you to wait not on a new event or another meeting, or all of those things that have been taken away from us, that worship expression that we haven't been able to have, that prayer time together, that one-on-one conversation that we haven't been able to have. Don't wait on those things. Wait on the Lord. This is what Hosea chapter 10 and verse 12 says, sow righteousness for yourselves, and reap faithful love. A really good statement. Sow righteousness, reap faithful love. What's righteousness? Righteousness is obedience and carrying a sense of God's justice forward. Abraham was obedient unto God, and it was counted as righteousness unto him. That's what righteousness actually is, just obedience to God. Peterson calls it a long obedience in the same direction, seeking the things of God continually, no matter what the environment, no matter what the circumstance, no matter how disconnected or misunderstood you feel, just keep seeking God. Wait patiently for the Lord. He inclines and hears our cry. Here's what the other part of verse 12 of Hosea 10 says. It says, break up your unplowed ground. It's time to seek the Lord until he comes and sends righteousness on you like the rain. Here's what we do. We look back at those places and we remember them being sweet. We remember being understood. We remember it all making sense. And then something happens to hurt us. Something happens to break that goodness. And more often than not, what we do is we seal that part of our heart off. And we decide that we're going to leave that alone. And what happens to that ground is it seals over and it gets hard. And Hosea the prophet is saying, break up that ground. Unless the ground is broken up again, it cannot even receive the rain of righteousness that God is trying to pour out on you. What if your sense of connectedness or disconnectedness, your sense of being misunderstood, your sense of not sensing God actually comes back to you not being obedient, not sowing in righteousness, to actually prepare the soil of your heart to receive that righteousness and to receive that blessing from God. I'd encourage you again, the Christian life is actually as simple and difficult as this. Seek first the kingdom of God and all these things will be added to you. Remember, those that wait on the Lord will renew their strength. It's not complicated, but it is difficult because you have to go back to that ground that you've let seal over and let harden. And you've got to allow God's Holy Spirit to break that ground up. You've got to, I will never trust again. I will never love again. I will never let that happen to me again. I will protect myself from those things. And the Holy Spirit is like, I want you to be obedient to me and be open and vulnerable and all of those things. And we do it in community as best we can. But in the end, it comes back to you and your decision to wait patiently on the Lord, to seek the Lord and to let Him renew your strength, to bring a new ecosystem, to rejuvenate the heart. Yeah? So my friends, I just want to encourage you, if you're feeling disconnected, if you're feeling like nobody cares, if you're feeling like your church has not done a good enough job for you, or your ecosystem of people around you has not done a good enough job for you, try to take that away from your conversation with others and try to take it to your conversation with God. Let the word refresh your soul. Psalm 40 and Hosea 10 verse 12 were my scriptures today. So go and start there. Have a look at those. They might encourage you today. They might help you to break up that soil, that hardened soil, and let God's blessing flow back into your lives so that when you go out, you can sow in righteousness and you can bless others because you're coming from a place of having been blessed after seeking Him first. God bless you, church. Good luck with that.